For those of you that love talking about animals, from Sci News, Carnufex carolinensis, new prehistoric crocodile discovered in North Carolina. A new species of prehistoric crocodile that dates back 231 million years ago, Carnian stage of the Triassic period. Before I continue, true crocodiles didn't evolve until somewhere around 25 million years ago at the very end of the Oligocene epoch, which was somewhere around 30 million years after the dinosaurs went extinct. So this wouldn't be possible. It's very likely this is a species of crocodilomorph, but not a true crocodile. Let's continue. Has been identified by a team of paleontologists led by Dr. Lindsay Zano of North Carolina State University and the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. And now, from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. Welcome to Creature Guy Live Prehistoric News. Hit that subscribe button so we can dive right back into the prehistoric news of the day. Let's take a look at this crocodilomorph. He definitely looks quite interesting. Like, let's see, yeah, very bipedal. I wonder, this is almost like a post-Desuchus somewhat stance. He should probably have more of a horizontal sort of a structure and not really relying on his tail for balance. The newly discovered creature named Carnufex carolinensis, or the Carolina butcher. Ooh, I like that, is one of the world's earliest and largest crocodilomorphs, or crocodilomorpha, a group of creatures that includes modern and extinct crocodile relatives. Yes, that is correct. Even today's alligators, caimans, garrels, and crocodiles are technically part of the crocodilomorpha lineage. But this animal is a distinct species of Archosaur crocodilomorph. It was about 9 feet or 2.7 meters long and walked on its hind legs and likely preyed upon smaller inhabitants of North Carolina ecosystems, such as armored reptiles and early mammal relatives. So this is around the mid Triassic period. It's very likely you already had small mammals running around. They were just laying eggs at this point. And then some of the first species of dinosaurs roaming different parts of eastern North America. But what's probably going on here is that this crocodilomorph happens to have very small forelimbs compared to its hind limbs. And when it comes to a wide range of crocodilomorphs, this is not very common. There are different branches of the Archosaur lineage, especially when it comes to the Pseudosuchians, that tend to be quadrupeds or walking on all fours, but bipedalism isn't as common. Now, let's take a look at some other species, such as Ostreodactylus, which was found in Tyrol, Austria. And this animal inhabited the country somewhere around 215 million years ago. So this is during the late Triassic period. And this is also around the time when animals such as Coelophysis have evolved. So it's possible that on Pangea, Ostreodactylus might have come into contact with animals such as Coelophysis, Placerius, or a wide range of the different large tusked dicynodont lineage over in different parts of Europe during the late Triassic. Here's just the very well preserved specimen of Ostreodactylus. When looking at the family tree and where Ostreodactylus belongs to, it looks like it's a not too distant relative of the more famous Triassic Patinosaurus pterosaur species. Now, when looking at the wingspan as a whole, Ostreodactylus probably reached somewhere around 4 feet or around 120 centimeters. And this individual was likely feeding on small species of fish during the late Triassic of Austria, as well as different species of insect, unlikely going after different species of small mammal or definitely not any small dinosaurs. Even the hatchlings within the region just wasn't built for tackling even that large of game compared to itself, because this animal might have weighed only a few ounces at most. It was very lightly built. Well, this is an interesting illustration, but it almost looks like somebody took Stitch and made him into a pterosaur. I don't know
I
why.
just like the picture, so when you asked for it, that's what I pulled.
Yeah, this looks. I mean, it's not bad. I think he should be standing a little more erect. He's got an almost like mandrill monkey and Stitch sort of a look. Anyway, let's go back. The fossilized skull, spine, and upper forelimb of Carnufex carolinensis were collected from the Upper Triassic Pekin Formation in Chatham County, North Carolina. Got a lot of funny names coming up here, but it must be like a North Carolina thing. Fossils from this time period are extremely important to scientists because they record the earliest appearance of crocodilomorphs and theropod dinosaurs, two groups that first evolved in the Triassic period, yet managed to survive to the present day in the form of crocodiles and birds. Yes, that is very true. With the birds today are avian theropods, theoretically. So let's see. This is the skull. So I'm guessing the white is the preserved skull that we have. That's not bad. I mean, it's not uncommon for this to happen with different new species of not just crocodilomorphs, but different species of theropod dinosaurs, even the herbivores. Actually, it's just nice to see, or it's relieving that we even have part of the skull, and it's not just we found parts of the ribs, the thigh bones, some of the tail vertebrae, but we didn't have any of the skull preserved. That's really sad when that occurs. Dr. Zano and her colleagues suggest that Carnufex carolinensis may have filled one of North America's top predator roles before dinosaurs arrived on the ancient supercontinent Pangaea. 231 million years ago, dinosaurs were technically already existing, but they didn't have any major impact on the ecosystem in a way of being the apex predators. They were fairly small at this point, maybe being somewhere around 4 feet or around 1.2 meters. So, yes, they would have been simple food for this 9 foot individual, which I'm guessing could have weighed at least 3 to 400 pounds or a little over 150 kilograms. He would have made short work of the younger dinosaurs or older species, as well as other species of proto mammal during the time, and such as the tusked dicynodonts. So let's take a look at another individual. Now, this is not a dinosaur, even though it looks like one. This is actually a member of the Crocodilomorpha family and also belongs to the Papasaur lineage. It has been discovered in areas such as Arizona and New Mexico, and it dates to somewhere around 218 million years ago during the late Triassic. And this is Shuvosaurus. And despite it having a somewhat ornithomimid sort of a look, and the ornithomimids were a group of um, omnivorous dinosaurs that existed during the Cretaceous period. So this is after 120 million years ago. So at least 100 million years after this animal existed. And despite them having that sort of look, actually, maybe not an ornithomimid. You could say this almost has like a coelophysis sort of look, just with an ornithomimid, maybe beak and skull. But the truth is, it's actually more closely related to animals such as Postosuchus or even Ornithosuchus, despite it having a more dinosaur look.
Really? I mean, a Postosuchus?
Oh yeah, the Poposaurs had a wide range of different species that created many dinosaur-looking individuals, despite being very far off in the lineage. So it's very possible that these animals might have been cold-blooded and not warm-blooded like the dinosaurs, but that's still up for debate. This animal was probably not much longer than um, 3.3 feet, or around a meter in length, maybe weighing somewhere around 20 to 30 pounds. It was a very small individual, and despite its look, it's an herbivore. So most likely it's feeding on different species of ferns. Flowers haven't evolved yet. It's likely it might have been feeding on low-lying ginkgos, or it's about to say fruit, but fruit wouldn't evolve until the Cretaceous period, after 145 million years ago. Um, very unlikely feeding on any flesh. There have been certain preserved herbivorous-looking teeth from animals such as Shuvosaurus. Now let's keep going. Typical predators roaming Pangaea included large-bodied Rauisuchids, so these are animals such as Postosuchus, and Paposauroids, such as Paposaurus. Fearsome cousins of ancient crocodiles that went extinct in the Triassic period. It's really unfortunate that that occurred. Why did the massive Rausuchians all of a sudden just happened to go extinct at the end of the Triassic period. Though other lineages of the paracrocodilomorph lineage would um, survive, which is quite odd, and become even larger than their Triassic relatives. Fierce. Okay, let's see. In the southern hemisphere, these animals hunted alongside the earliest theropod dinosaurs, creating a predator pileup. It's probably mentioning this predator pileup because in certain dig sites, you tend to find a lot more predators than you do the herbivores, which is quite odd. And it could be that you simply had it where a handful of herbivores died and it just attracted a sheer amount of carnivores to the site. And that's why there are so many that happen to be preserved. However, the discovery of Carnufex carolinensis indicates that in the north, the large body crocodilomorphs, not dinosaurs, were adding to the diversity of top predator niches. By the early Triassic, mean around 240, 245 million years ago, you had a wide range of different reptiles roaming the landscape, and they were virtually the top predators. Outside of certain proto mammals that would have survived the Permian mass extinction, they would have already taken over. And the dinosaurs wouldn't really have a massive impact. Well, somewhat of an impact, what I should say. It's around 215, 220 million years ago when you start seeing sizes like 12 to 15-foot long carnivores. But even then, they had to be quite wary of the crocodilomorphs in the area. So let's take a look at another creature. Now, this individual has also been found over in Arizona. This was around 212 million years ago. And this little creature was somewhere around, I'd say, 4 to 5 feet in length. Actually, let me rephrase that. 5 to 6.5 feet in length. So pushing around 2 meters. This is Ephegia, which is also not a species of dinosaur and more closely related to
This is
the.
like a bird.
Yeah, it is interesting. It looks like they added feathers to this creature. Um, yeah, that is quite strange. I mean, here they have him where he's just quite scaly, but also like the Shuvosaurus, the Ephegia also had a jaw structure that was more better adapted to feeding on different species of plants within the region. So it's also unlikely that it was feeding on any flesh within the area, even if it were to scavenge, it was probably unlikely. But Ephegia is a member of the Paposaurid lineage of Archosaurs. So this animal was more closely related to the crocodilomorphs in the region, not the dinosaurs. It is interesting. You had all these different species of dinosaur like Archosaurs or dinosaur like crocodilomorphs that would exist until the end of the Triassic, and all of a sudden they just disappear. S- So,
Maybe
I
they all
mean,
got eaten.
I mean that is a bit of a theory. Actually, that is interesting. That doesn't tend to be a theory that's put out for different extinctions for certain animals, and it's odd considering you could have it where certain carnivores were just so efficient at overkilling that they could have taken out certain species. It always tends to be like it has to be a climate change or a certain environmental change within the region or possibly disease. But even that, even the disease part tends to be um, a lot of the time pushed away from, extinction theories, which is quite odd. But Ephegia was a successful little guy from the late Triassic of Arizona. So this individual did have to watch out for different species of crocodilomorph in the area because it didn't really have much of a defense besides probably running away. Even the theropod dinosaurs within the region that it inhabited, you had Coelophysis within the region. Um, but the question is, did something like Coelophysis hunt in packs, and was it? I mean, when you look at a Coelophysis skull, it's not exactly meant for handling much, larger prey. But then again, when you look at something like Velociraptor, it has a very thin and narrow skull, but we have evidence of them going after Protoceratops. So it's possible they might have hunted Ephegia. It's not like Ephegia is covered in armor.
Wait, just so people know, what is Protoceratops?
Oh, Protoceratops is an early relative of Triceratops. Not too much earlier, it existed over in Mongolia around 70 million years ago alongside Velociraptor. Protoceratops was somewhere around 8 feet in length or pushing around 1.5 meters and probably weighed upwards of 300 pounds or pushing a little over 140 kilograms.
So he was tiny compared to Triceratops.
Compared to Triceratops, yes, but a Velociraptor barely weighed 25 to 30 pounds or a little over 13 kilograms. So that was a big feast for something like a Velociraptor. So let's head back to the article. Susan Dramala of North Carolina State University and the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences, a co author of the discovery paper, added as theropod dinosaurs started to make it big, the ancestors of modern crocs initially took on a role similar to foxes or jackals, with small, sleek bodies and long limbs. If you want to picture these animals, just think of a modern day fox, but with alligator skin instead of fur. Um, there are certain species of crocodilomorph that it looks like these animals would have burrowed, and that's what I was thinking of when it came up with fox, because red foxes create burrows. Virtually every fox technically creates burrows, but anyway, um, it's a huge debate as to what lineage of crocodilomorphs would lead on to the true crocodiles, even alligators of today. But alligators evolved much earlier in time compared to the crocodiles. You already had different species of alligator toridae somewhere around 75 to 80 million years ago, and with the different species of caiman over in South America during the late Cretaceous period. And then for some reason, true crocodiles don't evolve until the late Oligocene, around 25 million years ago. Now, taking a look at another individual, this little creature, which is an this is actually a species of idosaur. Now, despite this animal looking like it's a carnivore, it's not. This is actually a species of herbivore from Arizona, somewhere around 220 million years ago. It wasn't very large, probably reaching somewhere around 4 to 5 feet in length and or pushing around 1.5 meters, and probably not weighing much more than maybe 80 to 100 pounds or pushing around 40 kilograms. So this individual is Revueltosaurus. Now, originally, when the skull was found of this individual, it looked very similar to certain relatives of the ornithopod family of dinosaurs, such as the iguanodonts and the hadrosaurs, but earlier relatives. It's a group of herbivores called the Fabrisaurs, such as Fabrisaurus. But from more recent analysis, it became much more accepted that this individual is actually a species of Paracrocodilomorphin, specifically the Idosaur lineage of Triassic reptiles. So it almost became one of the earliest known ornithischians, but instead turned out to be one of the members of the armored Idosaur lineage. So this is referring to reptiles such as the Desmatosaucus and I believe Tylothorax, which were some of the armored individuals from late Triassic Texas around 220 million years ago. So these are technically the nodosaurs and ankylosaurs of the Triassic period. So this individual is an herbivore. It's not going to be feeding on any flesh. I mean, it is quite interesting how many of these different species of early but small crocodilomorph looking somewhat like certain species of dinosaurs, and in this case, not necessarily like an ankylosaur, but just a like an armored, I don't know, skink maybe. That's not the best comparison. Anyway, skinks almost like drag their body on the land. Um, anyway, it's just quite remarkable that many of these were herbivores. So let me know what your favorite species of Triassic reptile is. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News. Remember to like, comment, subscribe if you love talking about animals, and share this show with everyone you know, because nothing is better than all animals all the time.